I'm outside in the yard because it's nice and sunny and not freezing, and more or less I want to be able to do this with a little bit more peace and quiet than what there is in the house right now. I don't want to disturb my wife and daughter because they're asleep right now. So I figured I'd come outside and enjoy the scene while talking about something that probably could. I know it's probably going to affect me more than everything because this revolves around personal decisions and everything, but I wanted to take time to explain it to anybody else that this might have any value to. Uh, when is it time to get out of the hobby and the reasons why? Well, given what's going on right now, I'm thinking about getting out of breeding, even though I haven't had a long period of breeding experience. I've only had the experience happen last year where I was successful in breeding, but because I only had so many females that I could actually use for breeding, uh, and I only had so many males that I could use, I'm kind of limited as far as like how much I can produce. And if I were to be an actual business or other than a hobby breeder and everything, the problems is the fact is whatever I'm producing might not be what people are interested in, and that kind of sucks because that has more to deal with the ever shifting interests and the fads that come with the hobby. As far as like whenever something new comes out, everybody wants to either get a hold of it, and the snakes that they were popular before that start coming into decline. As far as like popularity, price, availability, and stuff like that. Uh, that's another thing that might affect whether or not you should get out of the whole snake breeding and hobby is the general oversaturation. Uh, because the snake and reptile industry got so much of a big boom here lately in the last 10 years, there's more breeders out there than most people could anticipate or count. And that created a massive amount of snakes. Now, in relation to the whole gene morphology chasing and stuff like that, uh, people didn't seem to realize that in the whole process of breeding, you're going to create a lot of excess snakes that you don't want. And the odds of getting the one all gene snake or the one visual recessive that you're shooting for is going to be few and far in between. And with all that excess that's been created by everybody, including the big industry people in the hobby, it kind of makes it really hard for even somebody on the smaller scale to get a foot into the doorway because you just might not be able to market as well as they can. And even if you're using other social media platforms like Facebook Marketplace or Facebook groups that help the community as far as like what particular snake you're having or reptile or whatever have you uh, you're not always probably going to make a lot of money. In fact, Ben Cincy pointed out in yesterday evening's live stream that a lot of people don't get a positive investment or return within the first couple of years of breeding snakes. And for a lot of people, including myself, that would be one big thing that cause you to fall out of wanting to breed or even keep snakes. and that really kind of sucks. Another thing that can cause uh, a reason to get out of the breeding or keeping is other financial issues that pop up that might come up, like emergencies, medical bills, sudden deaths, vehicle accidents, or even things like maintenance and upkeep of properties and stuff like that. All those things can pop up whenever, because things over time fail and they need preventative maintenance and repairs, and they end up costing you a lot of money. And some of these things are not things that you can fix on your own, reliably at least, or on the cheap. If you try to fix things on the cheap, it's only putting a patch on. Yeah, it's just further delaying the problem. And in my experience, I've had my fair share of issues pop up while the we were getting into the whole snake thing. Uh, when we didn't have as many snakes, we had my daughter was going through nephrotic syndrome, so that was a lot of back and forth between children's hospitals and getting prescriptions, and a lot. It was creating a lot of stress because we were worried about being able to afford things because of medical treatments and stuff like that. Then I also had a vehicle accident where I got hit by a less experienced driver with a lot of vehicular accidents on their record. That caused me a loss of a primary vehicle. I had to go to court to defend myself on a traffic summons because they tried to blame me for it, and ended up getting that dismissed. And that created a lot of havoc because I had to give up some things, and I had to do community service and a whole bunch of other stuff in order to get a pro bono lawyer, because I didn't have the money at the time set aside for anything, because nobody can expect to go to court and hire a lawyer, especially during COVID times, because you know social distancing and all that stuff. Then on top of that, I had to get a another used vehicle in order to have a vehicle for transportation. Everything was hunky dory afterwards. By then, we were kind of comfortable. We had a little bit of extra money because of the stimulus checks. Uh, my VA and SSDI had been subject to cost of living adjustments because of the inflation and all stuff. And we had a pretty big one a couple of years ago where it was like 8.9%. But here lately, I had to dump, this last month, I had to dump 1 grand into my vehicle because O2 sensors need to be replaced and CV axle need to be replaced. And that was a lot of money I didn't have on hand. I actually had to get it as the money as a gift from one of my uncles that was very willing to help me out, because throughout my entire life and him knowing me, I had never asked for help. Never once. While others have asked and they've gotten loans and they've just never paid them back. But on top of the vehicle issue, now there's the plumbing issue. It's a matter of, for a little bit of clarity, the issue is the main sewer line, causing things to get backed up. Uh, Estimates are $950 just for uh, pulling up a toilet and using a auto feed auger to get a clog out. That way the clog there is out and proper flow and drainage is happening. The more expensive issue is if it turns out to be the main sewer line needing to be replaced, because this house is very old, built in the 1950s. A lot of the stuff that's underneath the footer and the foundation, which is a solid foundation, solid footer, is cast iron pipes. And if they're cast iron pipes, they're more likely corroding or breaking down under pressure from settling. And that is like a 4 to 5 grand issue, and that's money I don't have. That's money I'll never be able to have saved for anything like that. And because this house that I'm living in is my father-in-law's, he owns it. So it's a matter of discussing whether or not this is something I need to help pay for, or this is something legally that he's bound to pay, has to pay for because the house is in his name, the mortgage, everything. So whatever thing is structurally wrong, he is legally bound to take care of it, and it doesn't should not fall directly on me as to having to deal with it financially, especially if it's not within my means. And again, for clarity, situations like this might cause a person to get out of the hobby because now they might have to downsize if they're not being fruitful or productive as far as like breeding or anything. You might end up having to sell off at a reduced cost not just the snakes, but also the equipment that you might have, whether it's racks, enclosures, uh, incubators, especially the large scale ones that you can have a couple of clutches in. Any anything that might seem more trying or have more precedence will definitely make you rethink about being in this hobby, because if you're not prepared, or you just have a series of bad luck constantly running back and forth, uh, it's gonna freaking take a lot of your time and money and your attention, and that's gonna basically take it from the animals that you're trying to take care of. And that's kind of how it is. And for anybody else that might be thinking of getting into this, a word of caution: if you're gonna start small, stay small. Don't get too ambitious, because if you get too ambitious, you're gonna have yourself stretched thin financially, and then you're gonna end up having issues come up that will make you rethink any ideas you ever had. Uh, Another thing that might cause you to get out of the hobby is not so much getting burnt out. It may this may this may come as a shock, but it may actually be in some cases kind of the community that you find yourself in, because with any community where people have similar interests or hobbies, stuff like that, you're always going to find the people that are gatekeepers. They're going to be the big shots and stuff like that, and they will find ways of pushing you out, whether they say that you are doing the wrong practices or you're not doing things right, or that they'll just badmouth you. And sometimes this will happen, uh, not from them directly, but mostly from their subscribers and followers and stuff like that. Uh, they'll there's a lot of armchair people hiding behind their computer keyboards and their screens and stuff like that, looking to troll and denigrate and basically make you feel like you're a piece of crap and that you're doing everything wrong, and then they'll push you into either giving up and quitting. And honestly, I wish that kind of tribalistic mentality, that cult of personality, that hero worship, was not the pox and poison that it is in the community. And I say that with some clarity and some rationality to it, because I don't think anybody else is going to admit to it, as far as like the the big guys in the hobby. None of the big guys here in the United States or in Canada or anywhere else are going to admit that, hey, sometimes the things we say and do and practice and what we preach and everything does have a double-sided effect. And and the people that they reach out to, that listen to them and stuff like that, they also in turn perpetuate some of these things that really push people out. It's it's kind of the thing that freaking makes the industry in the hobby look bad, but everybody else is keen to blame everybody else and point fingers, and nobody seems to want to blame the big guys or anything like that because they have the clout, they've got the experience and stuff like that, they got the following, they've got the finances. They're pretty much untouchable, especially on certain social media platforms where where they're making money and revenue, and they have the support of those social platforms themselves. Uh, for small potatoes people like me, we don't have the clout, we don't have the money and the following and stuff like that. So we get blamed for a lot of things, and that causes us to shy away and step back from the light of being in this hobby and stuff like that. And it really sucks. Another thing to expect if you're going to decide to get out of the hobby and you decide to reduce your collection, and it really depends on how much you're going to reduce it. You can either reduce it by a third, a half, or you can totally just sell off everything you have. Not just the snakes, the equipment, like the thermostats, the racks, the tubs, incubators, all that stuff. If you choose to get out and you choose to sell or reduce your collection and your stuff, you are not going to make anything back as far as like how much you spent into everything. And with times being tough, people are either going to give you their best offer or they're going to be really cheap. And by cheap, I mean they'll pretty much offer to take it off your hands for free at no cost to themselves, and that kind of sucks because if you were to give everything you had to somebody like that, there's no real guarantee that those animals that you'd be giving them to will be taken care of or used or raised with the proper husbandry. The last thing you want to do is end up finding out that the person that ends up taking your collection is a really shitty person and is not really interested about caring about them, but is more about interested about making money from them. And that's another thing that might get you out of the hobby. Uh, if you decide to grow a conscience and you start to worry more about the animals than making money, you'll start realizing that for the most part, for everybody else, it is a bit of a money making machine. It's a really big pyramid scheme if you think about it, because when you're breeding something and you're trying to make something new with multiple morphologies or multiple heads and stuff like that, uh, you are literally just creating something that will generate so much interest and a want and a need, even though there there isn't a big supply or if there's a low supply but a huge demand for. But you have to kind of think about that stuff a lot. But yeah, I've already decided to put out feelers on a couple of Facebook groups about reducing my collection and how much I'm willing to accept for certain snakes and everything like that. But I made sure to say only serious inquiries. I'm not going to entertain tire kickers or low ballers or anything like that. And I made sure to imply that the situation that I'm finding myself in has made me reconsidered keeping the vast majority of my snakes or doing any breeding. Because, like I said, with the situation that I have right now, the plumbing, backing up, and how much it will cost to do one or two different variations to make the issue go away and fix it is just beyond my means. And I can't come up with the money fast enough to do that, because I do have to worry about my wife and my daughter. We need to have good plumbing. I mean, water's working, AC's working, we've got food and everything, but having reliable plumbing to flush away waste and everything is a bit of an issue, because it could cause a health issue. And I don't want that to happen. But I've only gotten a couple inquiries so far from people, but I'm just not hearing anything as far as like, okay, I agreed to such and such prices. I can come pick them up whenever and stuff like that. And I'm just trying to do the right thing, lighten my burden, make sure that the snakes that I am giving up are going to good people. I just It's really hard because right now it's the start of a new month. Well, yeah, it's well past the start of a new month. It's already halfway past. And, well, at least I can say this. I can keep what few snakes I can deal with as long as I'm not breeding and everything. And I can still be comfortable. And maybe not have nowhere near amount of money going out for all that. But I do worry that it's becoming difficult to even move snakes, to get them rehomed and stuff like that. Yet, as much as I would have liked to get this rolling when I started, which when I initially started it was for getting over my fear of snakes, but I also wanted to give oh, excuse me. I also wanted to help generate a source of income that my wife and daughter could have, because my wife only gets child support for our kid, and it's not much. I mean, compared to what I get through SSI, DI, and VA disability, what my wife gets for child support is like a very small fraction, like maybe a sixth or a tenth of it. And even though my wife is disabled, she can't seem to collect disability because they keep denying her. And I don't know how they can deny somebody with clubbed feet and some of the health issues she has, like it's something that she can get over with and get cured from. I'm sorry, it's just not possible, and I don't see why they would deny her what should be rightfully hers. But uh, at least at this point, I can say that I'm not in debt. I For all the stuff that I've gotten, snakes and equipment wise, I've always been able to pay with cash and buy items over time, rather than create an insurmountable amount of credit card debt. Uh, that was something I was not willing to put myself through, because credit card debt can really put you in a bind. And I speak from the experience of other family members who've ran up a lot of credit card debt and ended up having to file bankruptcy, if not once, but twice. But all I can say is this: if you get into this hobby, get into it for the right reasons, but also try not to look at it with any rosy shade, rosy, rosy shades, or with any big hopes of making it big. I mean, if you're gonna start off trying to do this, just know that you're not going to get any positive returns automatically or within the first year or two. You might not see anything in the first 5 or even the first 10. You just might break even. And I know that might sound hard to say or hard to accept, but that's the truth. If you turn something that is a passion as far as like a hobby into something that might start to be a business, because you gotta have the business savvy, the marketing savvy, and you definitely gotta have what people might be interested in, or at least have the ability to create new things that would generate the new interest. But right now I'm gonna try to find some inner peace in this situation. Try to find a way to get through this hurdle, and maybe, just maybe, if things are resolved, maybe I can get back into it again with a little bit more confidence, and maybe with a little bit more luck. But until then, I'm definitely putting my foot down and halting all breeding, and just going to maintain proper husbandry and ownership of these animals until either they change hands, or until the problems themselves that we're having here become resolved and no other further hiccups. Uh, like I said, this can affect any single one of us. We all have things that we try to strive for or plan to do, but life has a way of throwing monkey wrenches into it. And they always come at the weirdest or most inopportune times, when we least expect it, or when we don't have the money available to deal with it. Especially if some of those issues come around back to back with in succession. But I I hope this kind of helps put things in perspective for any of y'all. Uh, it's helping me find my perspective in the situation that I'm in, and as much as it kind of is depressing, it does give me a little bit more hope that things can improve over time. It's just that we have to get past certain things that just have to be addressed, because they're a little bit more important than dreams and hobbies. Well, this is Robert from Meis Morphs signing off. Have a good